Okay, so welcome everyone. And I think just to start with, could we have young people introducing themselves and just tell a little bit about yourself so Joe gets an idea who he's talking to. So Izzy, do you want to start?
Okay. My name's Izzy. I am in year 6. I'm 10 years old. And my favourite sport is running.
Nice to meet you, Izzy.
My name is Finley and I am 9 and my favourite sport is any sport.
Hi, my name's Clarke and I'm 9, soon to be 10. I'm in year 5 and I just enjoy most sports.
So Joe, would you like to just do a little introduction to yourself and tell a little bit about your journey? And then the children have asked, they have prepared quite a lot of questions for you. So we can go into those afterwards.
Yeah, perfect. I'm Joe Clarke. Much like a lot of you on this call, I started canoe slalom age 11 at year 6 at school. So just slightly older than some of you, or maybe the same age. So what a journey it's been. I'm 29 years old now. Makes you feel old saying that 18 years later, still doing the same sport and still loving it. My journey started in the Midlands, Stafford and Stone Canoe Club. I started in year 6, like I said before. It was an opportunity to try it through the school I was at the time. We had to apply for the position, so all the people in the year pretty much applied for that position, to the opportunity that was available. 8 spots, 4 guys, 4 girls, and there was oversubscribed massively. There's like 60 plus applicants from the year that wanted to do it, so we had to go home and write a letter for the hand it in before the following week's assembly as to why we should be chosen. So I went home and asked my parents to write down the most amazing letter, because I had to be chosen, because I tried it before with the Scouts and I was slightly too young to join the canoe club at the time. So I went to our parents and asked them to write me a letter. They were unwilling to do so, but very supportive with it. So they said, write it down, we'll have a little read over and make sure it all makes sense and it sounds good. So I went upstairs, wrote the letter, and yeah, the rest is history, really. I handed it in the following week in the assembly. I was announced as one of the 4 guys. I started off once a week on a Wednesday evening, 6 till 7 at the local canoe club, and quickly spiraled into two times a week, 3 times a week, weekends. Before you know it, I was traveling all over the UK, England and Wales and Scotland, to all different places we never would have been to before, and remote places, because a lot of it's on natural rivers at the start. So you're traveling all over the place, to deep into North Wales or into the top of Scotland. Lots of miles covered in the car, so I've seen a lot of the UK now as a result of canoeing. But that's not where it stops. In 2009, 6 years after starting, I made the junior team for the first time. Travelled to Slovakia for the European Championships, where I won a silver medal in the team event. And then from there, it just kept on spiralling more and more. Fast forward to 2013, so only 4 years later, just slightly after London 2012 Olympics, I moved down to Lee Valley, to the Whitewater Centre here, which we're kind of going to talk about later, hopefully. An absolutely amazing training facility, and made it onto the senior team that year. So the journey's been quite fast, from start to where it is today. And I made the 2016 Olympic Games. Actually, the qualification event was here in Lee Valley in London. It was in the November 2015. I remember it exactly because it was a 3-day event. And it was a very intense event to be selected for those Olympic Games, because only one person gets to go in canoe slalom, unfortunately. Whereas on the senior team, you normally have 3. So there's kind of essentially 3 athletes that are really, really good in each category, competing out for those Olympic spots. So I won that event, and then I knew in November 2015 I'd be going to the Olympic Games in Rio. Massive relief, but it doesn't stop there. Went to Rio, first Olympic Games, very, very nervous, but came away with the Olympic gold medal. I'm sure you watched the clip earlier. I think if you knew the kind of background behind that celebration I had at the finish was actually for a bronze medal at the Olympic Games, because at that point there's still 2 paddlers to go, so I knew I'd got a bronze guaranteed. And the next paddler went down and went behind. So I knew I'd got a silver medal at that Olympic Games. And then the last paddler went down and went behind, and I won the gold. So almost had the emotions of winning a bronze, a silver, and a gold at the same Olympics, which was pretty phenomenal and unheard of, to go to your first Olympics and come away with the gold medal in canoe slalom. So massive journey. It doesn't stop there. I'm still training at Lee Valley Whitewater Centre every single day, apart from Sundays. So Monday to Saturday, the venue's getting used. I've been out this morning paddling. The water's on 8:45 a.m. till 10 a.m. And then it'll be on again this afternoon, 2:15 till 3:30. So huge training volume and lots going on behind the scenes, but still going strong and looking forward to Paris 2024.
Fantastic. Wow, what a journey you have had. That's just so amazing. And I have to say that you are the first athlete that we have interviewed who actually has got a gold medal in Olympics. So, hey, well done.
Thank you.
So I was thinking if the children would like to take turns in asking one question each, and we can go around like that, and then Joe can answer the questions. Is that right? Who wants to go first? Some terrified looks there. Izzy, you're the oldest, so you can go first. Yeah.
Did you enjoy competition when you were younger?
It sounds quite funny, but I think I almost enjoyed competition more when I was younger, because when you first start out, it's kind of competition's almost like a bit of a social as well. So you go in there to see friends, and you catch up with friends that you may not have seen in different competitions. So if you had a competition in London, you might get friends from Manchester coming down to compete there, and you might not necessarily see them otherwise. So you build a community within canoeing. It's almost like a catch up when you go to the races, and the results are important, but they're not massively like what the most important thing is. It's just about building those experiences. Whereas now I've progressed in my career, it's almost the results are almost my livelihood. So they pay for my living, they pay for my family. I've got a little dog, so I've got a house, a car, all these things that need paying for, and become quite serious. So you're kind of racing almost to keep what you're accustomed to your lifestyle, and other things that you're thinking about. Whereas before it was just racing because you enjoyed it. Not that I don't enjoy it anymore. It's obviously still enjoyable, but it comes with a lot more serious outcomes for those results.
Thank you.
What is the fastest speed you have been at whilst canoeing?
I don't know the fastest speed. With the courses that we do, unfortunately, it was never really the same course, because on competition day, they set the course. You don't get to see the course before you go down. So you have to go and do a lot of mental rehearsal, because you don't get to practice it. You have to go there, and the gates are strung over the water, and you don't know what the combination is going to be that day. And the combination will never be the same again. So there's no official world record for the sport, unfortunately. So for the Olympic Games, for example, in Rio, I had the world record as such, because that course will never be strung up again in the same configuration. So for that race, I'll have the world record, for example, but there's no way to compare one race with another to be the world record. But we have got a really good bit of kit at Lee Valley. It's like up on the lampposts, a special bit of kit at Manchester United Football Club, and a lot of the football clubs have got the same equipment. It's you wear like a kind of vest thing, and it's got a tracker in there, and the cameras track you, and they also track your speed that the boat's traveling at. So I think the fastest I've probably done is about 15 miles per hour, but that's off the top of my head. I don't know exactly. But when you're going down the Whitewater Rapids as fast as you can, you go really, really fast.
What has been your biggest achievement?
I think the biggest achievement for me was obviously winning the Olympic gold in Rio. It's in some ways it's not the hardest competition to win, because only one athlete gets to go in our sport, unfortunately. So normally at the World Championships you'll have 3 people in each category from the same nations, whereas in the Olympics only 1 per nation gets to go. So the start list, rather than at the World Championships you might have 140 people, and you'll first have 140. At the Olympic Games there's 23, so you're one of 23. But with it coming round every 4 years, it makes it the pinnacle of the sport. It's the hardest to win in that respect, that you have one opportunity every 4 years. Everybody brings their A game, because it is the biggest sporting event for canoe slalom. So with all those things combined, I think the Olympics obviously has to be my biggest achievement. And to do that at the time, I was 23 years old. So yeah, it was huge, massive achievement.
Okay. Do you have a main technique that you use to win these competitions?
To try and keep the boat as dry as possible. When you're going down these big white water courses, if like a little skill I'd probably say to my friends to watch is how much time the boat spends underneath the water or with water on the boat. The drier the boat can be going down the white water section generally tends to be the fastest it will be, because you're riding on top of the water rather than riding on the under the water, and the boat's running faster then. So that's probably the main technique: keep the boat dry and keep the distance between you and the poles. So the poles is the things that we have to go between. If you can keep your body as close to the poles as possible, it cuts that line down. So as I mentioned earlier, with the equipment we've got at Lee Valley, it can tell you, if we do a course, it can tell you the exact meters covered. So for example, I might cover 150 meters for a race and my competitors might cover 157 meters at a race. So they've had to go 7 meters further. So it's going to take them longer to do those 7 meters than it will take me to do. So the shortest line possible whilst keeping the boat on top of the water is probably my kind of key words of wisdom.
What is your worst injury from canoeing?
My worst injury was in 2019. I had to have a shoulder operation because there's the boat AC joint here comes in across, like the collarbone joins in across into the shoulder. It's the AC joint, and unfortunately there should be a small gap between the two, and unfortunately the two bones didn't have that gap anymore, so the two bones were rubbing against each other, so it's causing a lot of pain, and it kind of really plagued the whole season in 2019. So I had to have an operation at the end of 2019, where the surgeon went in. I had keyhole surgery, so I got one cut here, a little one here, and one on the back of the shoulder, and he managed to do the operation. And touch wood, fingers crossed, everything's been okay since then, and he's managed to clean up the bone, and it just had to shave a little bit off the bone, make it slightly smaller, and reopen that gap again, so the bones can like run alongside each other rather than run together.
Have you ever done another sport like professionally?
No, I've never done any other sports professionally, because when I started so young at 11, it's so hard to branch out into a different sport. Originally, I played football and rugby as well at school, but quickly when you're traveling every weekend and you can't play football or rugby on a Sunday or a Saturday when you're asked to, then it's hard to keep up all the different sports, because it's so much commitment to one, to be at the top of your game. But unfortunately, I never managed to get to the professional level in rugby or football. Be nice to, because they pay very, very well, and obviously you guys know a lot more about me then. But I'm really happy I chose canoe slalom, because it's a very intimate sport. Everybody knows everybody. We're kind of one big family. So when we go to these events, these world championships, the Olympics, everybody talks to each other. It's a really quite nice atmosphere within the sport.
When did you know that you wanted to do canoeing for a living?
I don't think I ever had a eureka moment where I realised that canoeing was going to be my job, essentially. I think I just started out really enjoying it, and it's probably like subjects at school, the subjects you really enjoy, you try harder in because you have more success in them. And I think it was when I was at sixth form, so like 17, speaking to one of my teachers, she said, obviously you're quite academic as well, but you are naturally talented at canoe slalom. You've gone really far so far. Why don't you try and go for the Olympics? And always put, at this point, I was choosing whether I was going to go to university or not to go to university. So she said you could almost go to university at any point, whereas your career as a sports person is quite a small time frame. So she said, how about you try to go for the Olympics and see where you're at? Then if you don't make it, then you can always go to university then. So she almost kind of instilled that thought into my head, and then it festered, and I put university on a back burner. Tried to push for 2012 Olympics. So it's probably slightly too early, but after that I had great success. In 2013, I won the senior selections, and it boded well looking forward for Rio. So I guess at that point, then I realised that was my dream was my dream was always to go to the Olympics, but the dream was becoming more of a reality, was becoming more real, that I could make it a full-time job. And yeah, I guess I haven't looked back since, and this might be my job now as my full-time job, I guess, since 2011, so not 10 years.
Do you have to have like a diet or a strict diet because canoeing?
Yeah, so the sport is very much the kind of metric we use to measure things would be power to weight ratio. So how strong you are for how heavy you are. So the better you can make that ratio, the faster the boat will go. So if I'm really, really light and I can lift really heavy weights, and that's great. So trying to keep that weight down whilst also staying very strong is the key for canoeing. So with that, we have to have a controlled diet. Protein is really important to repair those muscles and the growth of those muscles, but it's also really important to get the fruit and veg on. So this time of year, there's a lot of colds and illnesses going around, as well as coronavirus. So plenty of fruit and veg to keep the immune system really strong and keep you nice, fit and healthy. So that's the main thing. And then around big training sessions, it's really important for those carbohydrates, so pastas, potatoes, all those kind of things, bread, rice, to keep the energy fueled. When you go to fill the car up, it's like filling the car up with fuel. You've got to fill the body with the right fuel to make sure you get the best performance out of it.
Did you want to be something else when you grow up before you knew that you wanted to do canoeing?
To be honest, I never really thought I'd do canoeing as a full-time job because you have to be in the kind of top 5%, I guess, in the country, if not the world, in the sport to be able to make it your full-time job. But once I'd made that dream of going to the Olympic Games, then that become my focus. And I started to think about little goals that could build the way there, rather than between where I was and the Olympic Games. It was kind of like, okay, make the senior team, do this, finish here, win a World Cup, and start building it slowly. So manageable goals, breaking it down, rather than have this huge gap, just one step at a time, almost like stepping stones, stepping from one to the other, then to the other. So I think, and once I'd set that focus and progression was consistent, I think I just thought, this is my dream now. It's possible. It can become a reality. And I've had no other time to think about what else I'd like to be, because I started the sport at 11, and things went so quickly from there. So I guess these are conversations I'm having now, is what's the next chapter for me, because sport, unfortunately, at some point will end for me. So what's next on the agenda? What's the next version of me? Because unfortunately, I can't retire at 30 odd.
When you started, did you ever think you were going to win a gold medal?
No, I think it's like I mentioned earlier, is when you're good at something, you put a lot of effort into it. So I really, really enjoyed canoeing, so I put a lot of my time and effort into it. And then winning smaller events when I first started, and getting promotions to the next division up. And it's very similar to football. We've got like Division 4, Division 3, all the way through to the Premiership division. So I rose through the ranks very quickly, and by age 13, so to only 2.5 years later, I made it to the Premier Division, so the top division. I was the youngest person to do so. And I think when you're just enjoying something, you're naturally good at it. Then obviously you put a lot of effort into it, and I obviously realised that you could win a gold, but to win a gold at the Olympic Games is crazy, and there's not a lot of people that do that. So yeah, I guess it's a hard one. I guess hard to say whether I actually thought I'm going to win a gold at the Olympics. Probably not, but I've done it, so maybe I should have had more belief in myself.
So could I ask you as well, you mentioned about, that when you retire, you will need to think of something else to do. Could you tell us what sort of age do people usually end up retiring from your sport? And have you had any thoughts of what you might be doing afterwards?
So I'm 29 now. The next Olympics, I'll be 31, nearly 32. But a lot of the athletes now are going till mid-30s to later 30s. So Paris is definitely on the agenda. 2024 Olympics, and then beyond that you've got LA in 2028. If I can keep myself injury free and in good shape, I think definitely LA could be on the cards. That's the dream, I guess. After that, it's hard to create a career at 37 or 35. But obviously having such a great expertise in the sport, I think coaching is something that really interests me next, to almost inspire the next generation and instill my knowledge into those athletes, because there's no shortcut, unfortunately, for the amount of hours of canoeing I've done. I guess that's probably the key.
So you mentioned about the number of hours you have to do training. What's the sort of, how could you sort of talk us through your normal day of, when you're doing some training?
Yeah, so normally I'd wake up about 7 o'clock, have breakfast, etc., and then make my way to the training venue, which is Lee Valley Whitewater Centre. Then I'd get down there for maybe 8:15. The water's on at 8:45. So get changed, get myself ready, get the boat out of the shed, and then get warmed up ready for the session. We normally get off the water about 8:45 to look at the gates set by the coach that morning. So we have a variety of sessions that might be all different, set for different themes for each different day, that are set with our training program, that might test different things and different skills to progress in different areas. Train from roughly, I guess, 9 o'clock till 10 o'clock, 9 till 10:15. Warm down, get back inside, and this time of year get a shower, get warm, although it's been quite mild recently, fortunately. And then afterwards we video review with the coach, so we watch all the sessions back, learn what we can from the video, go home, refuel, relax, essentially play a bit of PlayStation or Xbox. It's quite a lot of the times we spent recovering, relaxing and recovering. That's almost as important as doing the sport itself, is the recovery. And then in the afternoon I'll go back down about 2 o'clock, 2:30, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm on the water, I'll be down earlier, and I'll paddle again in the afternoon, like 2:15, 2:30 till 3:15, 3:30, another hour. Otherwise, I'll be in the gym, and again, that's 2:30 till 4, lifting weights to work on that power to weight ratio. So that's a normal day, and then we'll come back again, recover, and go again. So it's normally only 2 sessions a day. Sometimes we might have a running session between, so we might run 10 kilometers. But a lot of the time is just spent recovering or reviewing or learning from, because there's only so much training you can do physically in a day before you're too tired. So a lot of it's analysing and trying to be better each time.
Do you ever take holidays at all, or do you have to train all year round?
We have a period after the season. So the season usually finishes the last weekend in September. We can then take a 2-3 week break, and then it's normally back into it. Depending on where you are at that moment in time, sometimes people get back into it sooner, some people take a bit longer. Usually ends up being about 2 or 3 weeks. Then we'll have a little break around Christmas as well. So we'll work hard from mid to later October through till Christmas, and then the water's on next week until the 23rd of December, and then we've got a little break over Christmas before we come back. I think the water's back on the 4th, so little break there, and then pretty much through then till September again. Really, there's the odd weekend we might be able to take, but the calendar's all looking pretty full this year. We've got 3 World Cups back to back, into a training camp at the World Championships venue, into the World Championships, and so it's all quite full on. So I don't feel there'll be many holidays or breaks in season this year, unfortunately. But it's a lifestyle that I love it. Your
family must be very supportive.
Yeah, well, I got married this year. Well, my wife is very supportive. She knows exactly. Unfortunately, I spent a lot of the time apart from her. We're due to go to Dubai for 3 weeks training in February. So she spends a lot of time at home. That's why we got a dog. So she's got some company on our way. But family have been absolutely supportive. My parents are a massive part of me winning that Olympic gold medal, because when you're 11, 12, you can't drive a car. So they were driving me all over the place and buying all the kit for me that I needed to perform. And you don't realise how much they do for you when you're at that age. And now you only start realising it now, how much goes into it and the cost of it, really. I think fuel prices and driving 200, 300, 400 miles in a weekend, you realize how tiring that is as a person, let alone if you're doing it every weekend as a parent, as well as holding down a full-time job.
What is an MBE?
It's an award given to you by the Queen or one of the royal family. I actually got awarded mine in the 2016 New Year's Day Honours List. Yeah, massive achievement. And it's you get to go to Buckingham Palace and you get awarded it, and I got awarded mine for services to canoe slalom, to the sport that I competed in, and that was for winning the Olympic gold medal in Rio. There's quite a funny story behind that. They contacted me and I had a deadline I had to reply back by. Unfortunately, a lot of things going on at the time and I forgot to reply back by the deadline. So I actually got a phone call from Buckingham Palace, from one of the people from the royal family asking me, well, from the secretary asking me if I was going to accept or decline the offer of the MBE. Fortunately, I managed to accept it there on the phone. And March 2017, I went to the palace and got awarded it.
What is it like to really be awarded an MBE?
It's pretty surreal. We got to drive through the front gates of Buckingham Palace, which not many people get to do. And then we went inside and you're in a room of very special people who've all done something pretty crazy, pretty excellent in their sport, in life, in other areas other than sport, and everybody's there for a reason to be awarded this MBE. And I guess, it's just pretty surreal that you're in Buckingham Palace with one of the royal family giving you, it's like a little medal that you can wear. It's almost it's more surreal than winning the Olympic gold medal in some ways, because canoe slalom is my sport. I mean, my comfort zone. I know what it's like to stand on a podium or not. It's the first time I've ever been to Buckingham Palace, and probably the only time I'll be to Buckingham Palace where I'm getting awarded a medal for other things.
Could you also tell us a little bit, because I'm aware that these children haven't really experienced the Olympics like we did here in London. And when you went to Rio, what was it like, the whole experience of being in the Olympics? Could you tell us about that a bit?
The Olympics is just like no other event, especially what we're used to in canoe slalom. We were one of the first athletes in the Olympic Village. We arrived there and you go in and you realize the enormity of it. I don't know if anyone in the call's been Stratford, the Olympic Village there. If you imagine that's what you're walking into, but there's only athletes there. So it's not like the general public's walking around, it's just athletes and coaches, and you're walking around and you're just thinking, and I was walking around thinking, that's Usain Bolt over there, Usain Bolt's here. Nadal was there, like Andy Murray, like all these big names in sport that you see on TV, they were all there, and you're just trying to pick out who's who. And then you go to the dining hall and it's 10,000 people all being fed at the same time. So you've got all these different cuisines of foods. You've got Japanese, Italian, like kind of traditional Brazilian food, you name it, they've got it. They've got everything you could want. But they've also got McDonald's and things like that. So McDonald's in the Olympic Village, but at this point you're in full focus mode. You need to be competing, so you're having to ignore McDonald's and just eat the healthy food, the apples, the bananas, the fruit, the veg, all the things that you're used to. And then afterwards, I was very fortunate that Team GB allowed us to stay out in Rio until the closing ceremony. So I had about 11 or 12 days. So that I could really enjoy the burgers on offer at McDonald's, or the ice creams, or whatever else there was to offer. So it's just a crazy, it's almost like a huge bubble. You almost feel like you're living in a separate world to everybody else at that moment in time. So it's amazing. Okay, so this is just a bunch of medals. So this one was the World Championships this year, a gold. We got also this year was a bronze, this one here. This one was 2019 World Cup at Lee Valley. This was a gold. Fancy there. These are all normal medals. Then we've got the extra special one from Rio. This one here. This is the. So you can see the difference in the size. So this is the real special one for me. I'll hold up to the camera so you can all see it. And on the back of it, and the bottom here, not sure if the camera's going to pick it up, but you can see the event here on the bottom here. So this one here is really, really heavy. It's almost the same weight as all of these ones here. So this, how many medals we got here? 1, 2, 7 medals, 8 medals here. And it's the same weight as this one here. This one is really, really heavy.
That's just amazing. I think it's quite funny that it seems like every single Olympics, they try to make bigger and heavier medals.
Yeah, unfortunately, fun fact, this is a gold medal, and you might think it might be made out of gold, but it's actually not. It's gold plated, so actually underneath is silver, and then they just put gold plate on the top. And I think it was the 1960 something Olympics was the last time they had full gold Olympic medals, because back then the medals were about this big. So the cost to build a medal that small in full gold was very expensive. But if this is going to be all gold, it would be a lot more expensive.
Is it uncomfortable in the canoe?
So the event that I do is actually not too uncomfortable, because there's 2 different ones, disciplines. There's one called a canoe, which we refer to the sport as canoe slalom. But if we're going to be politically correct in some ways, it should be canoe slalom and kayak slalom. I actually do kayak, so I sit down in the boat with my legs in front of me, out in front, and then I have a double paddle, so I paddle like that. So it's quite comfortable. And then the other event is you sit on your feet almost. So you imagine like this is your knees, and you sit back on your knees, and you have to strap yourself in the boat, and then have half a paddle, so you have to cross over with the paddle, and then have half, so like that's the canoe. So when you get home tonight or whatever, if you sit on your feet, and after about 10 minutes your feet will go numb, it's very, very uncomfortable. And this is something that obviously with doing years of the sport becomes normal, but I don't do that discipline, so if I do it now, after 2 minutes my legs are dead and I'm in pain.
How did the canoes change over the years?
The sport's evolved massively. So in 2004 there was a rule change. The boats had to be, up until that point, were 4 meters long, and then they changed the rules so the boats could be 3.5 meters long. So we lost 0.5 meter in length on the boat, and this obviously allowed us to modify how the boat runs, how the boat turns, all these kind of things. The longer the boat is, the faster it's going to run. So if you think about a rowing boat, how fast the rowing boats run. So there's a trade-off between how long do you have it and how quick do you want it to turn. But with this, things have improved massively over the last 15 years in the sport. And as a result of this, the courses have got shorter, the courses have got tighter, the gates are closer together, the white water's got more extreme. So the whole sport has changed. If you look back at some of the footage from 2004 of the Olympic medal winning runs, you think, how did that win an Olympic gold medal? And then you look back, each Olympics, the sport's getting better and better and better. And 2024 will be no different. Winning run will be better again. So there'll be something, a new technique, or somebody will bring out a new boat or something to evolve the sport that next level.
When it really hurts and it's like really cold, how do you keep going?
I guess it's internal motivation at that point. There's nobody there to cheer you on. It's too cold. Nobody wants to turn out and cheer you down the course at that point. So it's very much reminding yourself of what you want to do. So for me, it's to win the gold medal in Paris. So when in those cold times, I have to just think, I'm here now. Every session counts, and it's that mentality that every session, every section of the course, every stroke you do is going to be getting you one stroke closer to Paris. So you're trying to be as good as you can be in everything, and making sure that my kind of motto, one that I took from Matthew Pinson, was to leave no stone unturned. So to make sure you're doing everything you possibly can. So at that point, you think your competitors might be thinking, this is cold, I can't do it. Then you have to have the opposite mentality, that it's cold and you will do it, and you will make sure that everything counts.
That's just really, really amazing. I don't think I could do it. I think when we watched through that video in the beginning, I'm actually absolutely terrified looking at that. I don't know. Do you ever get scared?
I think at the start, when I first started, there's definitely elements of being scared. I don't know what it is really, because the worst that happens is you fall out of the boat. I guess it's the fear of looking stupid in front of your peers, the fear of somebody laughing at you or something like that. Not that that happens, but just that internal thing that if you do something wrong or do something silly, that people will laugh at you at an early age when you're quite young. But now I'm just that comfortable in the boat and I guess in myself as well, that there's not really anything that phases me. The courses that we paddle on, I've paddled them all before, so I know exactly what to expect. I guess the next step for me that would probably make me scared is running big waterfalls or something like that, but it's not something that massively interests me at the same time, and it's nothing that's linked to our sport directly as such.
Who is your inspiration?
My inspiration, as I mentioned before, was I stole kind of Matthew Pinson's ethos of no stone unturned. I think to win 5 Olympic gold medals at different Olympic games shows that he has really dominated his sport. I've only got 1 Olympic gold medal to my name, and I realised how hard that was to get. So to be able to keep that motivation for essentially 20 years, if you think 5 Olympic games is 20 years of doing the sport at the highest level, that's kind of my motivation, is to win another Olympic gold medal, and that would be 2 for me. So to think he's got 3 more still shows what a legend he was in his own right in the sport. And each time he had to reinvent himself and come back each time better than he was before, because the sport was evolving and he had to evolve with the sport. So yeah, I think Matthew Pinson's probably one of our biggest idols in that respect.
And could I also ask if any of these children would like to have a go at doing your sport? What would you advise to them? You know, could they come to the Lee Valley Centre to have a go?
Yeah, definitely. Come to Lee Valley Whitewater Centre. There's always little come try it classes going on. You're all old enough to come give it a go. I'd say leave it a good few months till it warms up a little bit, because if you fall, then it's not going to be that nice this time of year. But if you do come down, and if I'm around, you'll probably see me and say hello, and I'll help you along your way and on the canoe slalom journey as well. So definitely get involved. There's plenty of come and try it classes and plenty of uptake. So if you are interested, there's no time like the present, and you're all at the same age as what I was when I first started, if not younger. So there's no stopping you. If you wanted to do it, you could be the next Olympic champions. You never know.
What sort of thing do you wear?
So I wear like two tops underneath, so they're like thermal tops, and then there's like a cag deck. So it's like, imagine like a good waterproof jacket. It's like a waterproof jacket you wear, but it's also got the spray deck on, which goes over the boat to stop the water coming in. So it's like, we call it the spray skirt. So it just goes around the boat. So that's neoprene. So good waterproof jacket, 2 layers. I've got some like nice neoprene trousers, like wetsuit trousers. And that's all you can wear really. A lot of people think you'd wear a wetsuit to keep warm, but you need to be able to bend your arm all the time. You're constantly bending the arm, so a wetsuit's not the ideal kind of thing to wear. So it's very cold in winter, especially when we're cracking the ice at Lee Valley on the lake to get onto the water. So that's not very pleasant, but again, reminding myself of what I'm here for and what I want to achieve.
Do you live near the Lee Valley Centre, or did you have to move to be near your training venue?
I had to move down here. So in 2013, I was living in Nottingham. I'm originally from the Midlands, from Staffordshire. And then age 17, I moved to Nottingham and did 2 years training in Nottingham. And then the opportunity after 2012 opened to come move down here. So I moved down here in January 2013. So nearly been down here 9 years in January, quite a long time now. And I've bought a house down here now and very much settled, so love it down here, and it's my new home.
Would you have any advice to give to the children in terms of like if they want to achieve something specific?
I think if you want to achieve something specific, my biggest kind of advice would be dream big. Don't ever think anything's too big. To say my dream is to win the Olympic gold medal. If I never made that, at least I made the senior team. At least I made the junior team or whatever, and did some great things in the sport and met some great people and great memories. So never put limitations on it. If you want it enough, you'll make it happen. There's going to be sacrifices along the way. Nothing worth having is ever easy. And most importantly, enjoy it, whatever you do.
Fantastic.